Hello and welcome back to another Crafts with Ash. I am so excited to share with you my tiered tray winter decor. Now, all of these DIYs are so simple, and basically everything I used here I got from the Dollar Tree, with the exception of some clearance items I got at Walmart after Christmas. So today I'm going to be decorating this really cute wicker tier tray that I actually got from the Bullseye Playground or the Target dollar spot for $5. I thought it was so cute and very wintry. So let's get started. For this first DIY, you're going to need this cube with the smaller cube on the inside and the bigger cube, the small pack of dowel rods, and these tags that I actually got from Target, then some cotton balls. So for this, I'm actually going to show you two different versions. I ended up changing at the end, but I'm going to show you the first one just in case you want to do it. So the first thing you want to do is unwrap the cube, and you're going to take the smaller cube out. Then you're going to take two of those mini dowel rods, and you're going to hot glue two of them to the back of the box. And when I say back, I'm talking about the part that has the shape cut out, because that's going to now be the back of our little project. You want to make sure that they are secure in each corner. Then you're going to take some Waverly chalk paint and just give everything a coat of that. After your box and your dowel rods are completely painted and dried, you're going to take a sanding block, and I actually got this one from the Dollar Tree, and you're just going to sand all of the sides and the dowel rods down just a little bit to bring forward that natural wood. Now, I love rustic wintry looks, so I'm all about the neutrals and the natural looks, like the wood looks or the golds, the silvers, and the greenery. So you're going to see a lot of rustic pieces in this video. Next, to give it that rustic look and that antique look, I took the top off of a foam brush, and I'm going to dry brush some antique Waverly wax all over my box. So I'm just very lightly brushing this wax around all of the sides, the edges, paying attention to the corners, and then I'm lightly going in between each side as well. I'm also hitting the dowel rods to give that more of a rustic look as well. Next, I took my jute cord and I just wrapped it around the center of the box, and I went around and around and around until I had it how I liked it, and then I cut it off at the back. Next, I took this pack of 4 mini ornaments that I got on clearance from Walmart, and it was 75% off of $1.98. So I'm not very good at math, but they were pretty cheap. And I went ahead and I cut the snowflake off of that. Then I hot glued it right to the front of the box in the middle of the jute cord. Next, I took a chalkboard gift tag that I got from the Target dollar spot, but I also know that Dollar Tree carries these too in their craft section. And I took a chalkboard marker that I actually also got from the craft section of the Dollar Tree, and I wrote snowballs 25 cents. Then I hot glued it a little bit below the top of each dowel on my box. To complete this DIY, I took some cotton balls and I just filled up my box with snowballs. So like I said at the beginning, I originally made this and then I decided I didn't really like it. I mean, it was cute, but it wasn't really my style. So what I decided to do was, all my hard work, I pulled out the dowel rods and that snowball sign and I painted the bottom of the box. And now I can use it as a riser in my tiered tray or as a candle holder. So there's a lot of different options now that I can do with this box. Now, don't get me wrong, that snowball sign and that little snowball stand was super cute and it would be kind of fun, but it just didn't go with my decor. But if you make it, I would love to see what yours looks like. I think this little cube is perfect for that tiered tray. You can even take the bigger one that came with it and make one that looks just like it and have a smaller one and a bigger one. What do you think? This next DIY is my favorite out of all of them. The first thing you're going to need is this crate from the Dollar Tree. It's in the craft section. Now you want to make sure that your crate has the slats on the side because we're going to make this look like the stacked books. So the first thing I did was give the whole crate a coat of Waverly White chalk paint. After my books were completely dry, I took that Waverly Antique Wax and the top of the foam brush, and I gave my books a light brushing all over. Now I paid attention to the edges and the corners because I really wanted to give it that rustic look. Then I took my sanding block and I sanded it down just a little bit, just enough to get that natural wood look to come through again. To add the words, I took this stencil from the Dollar Tree and my black acrylic paint and a foam brush, and I started stenciling Let It Snow. Now I started with the last letter first. So at the top, I started with the T and then worked my way backwards. Hopefully visually you'll understand what I'm saying, but it is pretty easy once you start going. Now my one tip for these stencils, I've seen some people use painter's tape to tape it down so it didn't move, but honestly, I didn't have any and I didn't really want to cut all of these up. So you just have to make sure to get real close to where any circles might be or anything that might kind of stick up, because you want to make sure that you get every crevice of that letter. Now for my O in snow, I decided to use a foam sticker snowflake that I got in a pack of foam stickers from the Dollar Tree. I'll actually show the sheet of stickers in a later DIY, but I went ahead and put it on there to keep the spacing, and then I took it off because I wanted my stencil to lay flat to my crate. And then I just continued to stencil the rest of my letters. After I finished all my stenciling, I went ahead and I put that snowflake back on there. Now I didn't feel it necessary to hot glue it on because it was pretty sticky. So then I took that same white sponge that I used earlier, and I just used whatever paint was on there. I didn't even re-dip it. And I just dabbed some over the black letters to kind of make it look like snow. Then I took some black paint and put it over the snowflake to make it pop off the white crate and to match the black letters. The next thing I did was take some jute cord and wrap it around the side of the crate. Now I went ahead and hot glued it to the top because I was going to add some greenery there anyway, so it would cover it. Once I wrapped my jute around my crate enough times to how I liked it, I went ahead and hot glued the end and then cut it off. To dress my books up, I took some leftover greenery that I had from some other DIYs, and I brushed some of that white paint onto the green just to make it look like a flocked look, so it was snowy. Then I hot glued those both down on the top middle of my books, and then I took some pine cones and did the same thing. These stack books are the perfect addition to my tier tray, and I think you can see why they are my favorite. What do you think? For my next DIY, we're just going to take this plastic sled from the Dollar Tree and we're going to give it an upgrade. The first thing I did was peeled off the burlap that was already on there, and by using my hair dryer, I melted the hot glue, scraped it off with that scraper, and then sanded it down. Now you don't need to completely clean all the glue off, just enough so it's flat. Then I went ahead and took the burlap off the top and did the same thing. Once I had the majority of the glue off and sanded down so it was flat and smooth, I took 3 craft sticks and I traced the slats of the sled onto those. Then I cut them down so they would fit. I made sure after I cut each one down to take my sanding block and sand it to make it that nice round smooth edge. To take this sled from looking very plasticky to more high-end, I went ahead and took my Waverly Antique Wax and painted the whole thing. Now, I would suggest actually taking brown acrylic paint to do this because the Waverly Antique Wax is very thin, so it didn't really stick well to the plastic. I don't know if acrylic would be any better, but I'm thinking it would because it's a little thicker. So if you have brown acrylic paint, I maybe would try that instead. But I just wanted to kind of make it look less plastic and Dollar Tree looking and give it that high-end look. Next, I took those 3 craft sticks that I cut down and I painted each one of those in Waverly Antique Wax. Then I took a baby wipe, or you can take a wet paper towel, and wipe off each one of those to make it look like a stained piece of wood. After my sticks dried, I went ahead and hot glued them down to the top of my sleigh. Next, I took my jute cord and, starting at one end of the inner piece of the sleigh, I wrapped the whole thing in jute cord. It was a little tough to start off with because you have to get it to stick to the end of that, but once you get it going, you can just wrap and wrap and wrap until you get to the end. Now for the middle there, where there's that middle piece, I just kind of made an X and kind of went diagonal and back and forth until it covered the entire slat. Once I got to the end, I put a little hot glue there and really pushed it down, and then I cut the string off. Now then I took my scissors and just kind of gave it a haircut, because with jute you always have these little flyaways, so I wanted to go ahead and cut them off. So just make sure that the end is completely glued down, and then you may even want to take your fingers and just kind of push it or roll it against each other. That way it's tightly on there. The next thing I did was take that same white brush I'd been using this whole time, and I dabbed the bottom of the sleigh to make it look like snow. I also brushed over the front of the sleigh and then on top of the white slats as well. And I even went over the jute cord just a little bit to give it that snowy look. To make this sleigh look a little bit more rustic, I took my sanding block and just sanded over the wood on top. Next, I took that same pack of mini ornaments that I got from Walmart, and this time I used the Christmas tree. Now I noticed that it blended in just a little bit too much with the wood, so I went ahead and added more white to the wood, and then I took my black acrylic paint and just brushed some of that onto the mini ornament itself. After that, I hot glued that to the middle of my sleigh and then added a little jute bow to the top of the star. I absolutely love how this little sleigh came out. I love the fact that I took it from looking like a plastic dollar store piece to a little high-end piece. And I think it would make the perfect riser on your tier tray, or you can just stand it up and it's perfect to display. What do you think? For my next DIY, I made what every tier tray needs, a wood bead garland, but I did a little hack, which I'm gonna show you. So the first thing I did was I took these napkin rings that I actually got on clearance after fall at Hobby Lobby, and they were $3.49 and I got them for 90% off, so super cheap. And I'm gonna be using 2 of the white and natural wood beads. Now, as you can tell, they're not on a jute cord or twine, they're actually on metal, or wire. So I'm actually gonna keep it on there rather than taking them all off and re-threading it. Now, I do wanna let you know that it is a little harder to work with and a little harder to wrap around your tier tray or display it because it's not as flexible. So if you aren't gonna like that, then I would highly recommend taking all the beads off of this if you do get these and restring them on your twine. Or if you just have random beads, then obviously just go ahead and string them on twine. But the first thing I did was I had to figure out how to put these two together. So I unhooked, I guess, or took apart the 2 hooks at the end, and then I just decided to put one inside the other bead and just hot glue it together. Once I took 2 of the napkin rings and attached them to make one, it was time to make my tassel. So I took some of my jute cord and wrapped it around 4 of my fingers. And I just wrapped and wrapped and wrapped until I got to the thickness that I liked. Then I went ahead and cut off the string. Next, I bunched a little part of it at the top and took another piece of jute string and tied it off. Now you want to make sure that the bottom piece is longer than the top piece. After you do that, you want to make sure that it's fully knotted and then cut through the loop. So then it's a bunch of single pieces, and that creates an easy tassel. Then you want to go ahead and give it a little haircut, make sure the bottom of the tassel is all even, and then it's time to attach it to your beaded garland. So what I originally was going to do was I was going to take a smaller piece of twine and wrap it through the loop at the top and then tie it to the wire at one of the ends. But what I ended up doing was just taking that loop and just wrapping it around the wire. Now, if you're not using this and it doesn't have wire, then you're gonna want to do the original method. I actually have a video of me showing you how to make one of these beaded garlands using actual twine, and it's for my fall tiered tray. So you definitely want to check out my YouTube channel and look for that one. It is a shorter version of it, like of the actual beaded garland, but I do show you how to actually attach it to the beaded garland using the twine method. So after I had the tassel part all attached to one end, I again took those mini ornaments. Those are really coming in handy with this whole video. I love them so much. And I took the snowflake, and this was easy because it already had a hole on the snowflake, and I went ahead and just put it at the end of the metal piece at the end of the garland. I used a little hot glue to tack it so it didn't move, but I didn't put a lot because I thought that in the future I could take that snowflake off and replace it with something else for a different season. What do you think? So for my last DIY, I made a little oopsie, but I'll show you both just so you can get an idea on 2 different methods that I used. So the first thing you're going to need is this arrow from the Dollar Tree, and it is the shorter one, but we're going to make this look like a house. So I took some spackle that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and I went ahead and filled the holes. And then after that dries, you want to go ahead and sand that off so it's smooth. Next, I took some sticker letters that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and it does not matter what color they are because I'm not actually going to keep the stickers on there. I'm just using it kind of as a stencil in a way. And starting from the bottom, I spelled out snow place like home. Now for my O's, I decided to use those same foam sticker letters, and here's where I show you where that original snowflake came from in the first DIY. And then the second DIY with the books. And that way you know what it looks like. So like I said, I start at the bottom and I'm barely pushing these down because I want to make sure that I get all of my spacing correct before I push them down. But then once you get all your spacing, you really want to push them down and make sure that they are completely stuck on there for the next step. Next, I took that Waverly Antique Wax, and you can see my little daughter there trying to cheese to the camera, and a baby wipe, and I went ahead and brushed over the arrow and over the sticker letters. Now here's where I made my first oopsie. Oh, before that, I want to remind you, because I forgot, take off your snowflakes before you do this, because I ended up putting them back on, but you don't need to stain over those. Okay, so here's where I made my oopsie. If you catch it, you can see my E came off in place. Well, I didn't notice it, and once it was stained over, there's nothing you can do about it. So this is where I'm going to show you, coming up is where I'm going to show you 2 different methods that you can use, because luckily I messed up on the back, and here's where I realized what just happened. Luckily I messed up on the back, and originally I spelled out snow no place like home, so snow no place like home. I don't know what I was thinking. But at least it gave me an opportunity to show you what this was supposed to look like on this side. I do realize how to fix my mistake, but I just went ahead and I just continued with stating this because eventually I am going to paint over these letters with white paint. But I just decided to continue stating this so that way at least I have a stencil to follow when I paint over it. Next, using a really sharp tip of the knife, I went ahead and peeled off all my letters. After that, I went ahead and placed my snowflakes back on my board. Now, I do eventually hot glue those down because they were kind of losing their stickiness. Okay, so here's where I figured out how to fix my mistake. What I did was I took a really small paintbrush and just dipped it in some white chalk paint, and just painted over it. I just painted over all of the letters. And that way, it actually made it pop from the board more, so I kind of liked it. But like I said, I'll show you the back so it shows you what it was supposed to look like. Well, you got a little look there of what it was going to look like. But what it looked like before, I realized, I guess I messed up big time on this one, and I didn't even notice it. My mom did. So then when I went to redo it, that happened. And for such an easy project, it gave me a hard time. But I think it, in the end, made it look really, really cute. So then I just took the tip of that white brush and I just gave the top and the very bottom a little snowy effect by adding some white Waverly chalk paint. Once that dried, I went ahead and took some Epsom salt and some Mod Podge, and I put the Mod Podge all over where that white paint was, and then just sprinkled some Epsom salt all over the top, so that way it gave it a little icicle snowy effect. I really love how this turned out, but you really want to make sure you get a good amount of Mod Podge on there so the Epsom salt adheres to your board. To finish my little house, I took some greenery and pine cones that I had left over from another project, and again I added that white paint to give it that flocked look, and then I just hot glued it to the top of my house. Okay, so coming up is my oopsie one that I had to do on the back that says snow, no place like home. But I wanted to show it so you could see what it looks like with the unfinished wood underneath the stickers when you peel it off. I think this look would have been so cute, but that's okay. I think in the end, it came out super cute despite the fact I made a couple little oopsies, but I absolutely loved it when I put it on my tiered tray. What do you think? I am obsessed with all of these DIYs that I made for this winter tiered tray, and how perfect was that actual tiered tray from the Target dollar spot. I could not have found a better one for the wintry look. Like I said in the beginning, I love all the neutrals and the naturals, and I think all of these DIYs really combine both of those looks and make such a great display. You're gonna have to let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite. I already told you which one my favorite was, definitely those stack books, and I have a feeling I'm literally gonna make those for every single season. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this video. I know that was a lot to give you all at once, so if you're still here with me, I appreciate it so much. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new craft tutorial. Then hop on over to Facebook and give my Facebook page, Crafts with Ash, Decor, and DIYs, a like and a follow. Until we craft again, I'll see you soon. Bye!